Welcome everyone to the Masters Battle League update from the Blitz. I'm your host, Nathaniel Shook, founder of Reborn Gaming and also commissioner of the Masters Battle League and coach. Today's actually a special day where we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, playoffs, the special version of the Blitz, where we talk about everything leading up to the playoffs, everything that's going on in the playoffs, teams to look for, waiver pickups, you name it, we got it here. And we are so excited to be able to introduce to you kind of the bracket, how things are going to be ran, and kind of the excitement around these next few matches in the wild card scene. So, like I said, my name is Nathaniel Shook, and I'm so glad you're here today to tune in for the Blitz, for the Masters Battle League, and we got a doozy today. We're going to start off here on the little list right here, as you'll see. First, we're going to start off at the very top. It's going to be the seasonal awards, so like your most valuable Pokemon, best record, conference record, so on and so forth. And then we're going to kind of follow down this kind of list of topics that we're going to be talking about today as we lead into the playoffs day. And we're going to be releasing the wild card matches. We're a little delayed on it, but with that being said, it's going to be a doozy. I'll see my AC hat supporting it because we got a special team we're going to be looking at in Violet City here a little bit later. So let's get right to it. We're going to look at our seasonal awards. Our first award is going to be none other than, you guessed it, Viridian City Football Club for the last apparel sponsor, top weather team wins. Now, this is in regards to them actually having the most wins, most kills and wins using Sandstorm. Chris Tenney has always been fantastic with weather and has just capitalized on that even more this year. This year was a little bit harder, as we've seen, but that being said, he's got decisive victories against Olivine, which really showcased his weather team prowess. Along with that, we also have, you guessed it, the biggest season upset award going to Olivine FC for their match, not only against Cinnabar Island FC, but then again with Blackthorn. This is when they were both undefeated. We got Cinnabar coming off a massive tie, and then you got Blackthorn, who was undefeated until this time, and giving them their first loss. So Olivine FC, coached by Michael Giuliano, have been stellar, and they get our MacroNet sponsor biggest season upset award. Following suit, we have the Densoku most improved coach and team, and that's going to Cheyenne Dang of Blackthorn City FC, where she was last year when she actually originally coached Viridian, to where she is now with Blackthorn are two drastically different things. Where she had a losing record in season 1 with only 5 wins and 9 losses, she now turns it around to be 9-2, second in her division, and for 1 point, leading the league overall as a record. She still, now, mind you, she still leads the league in point differential at 41. Following that, we then have the Tuffield Orchard sponsor Rookie of the Year, and this is a no-brainer. It goes to Olivine FC coach Michael Giuliano for showing up and having a winning season for his rookie season. Right, 6-5, 3-2 in conference, had 2 massive upsets, 1 in conference, 1 out of conference. Both to teams that were rightfully the 1 and 2 in the league moving on, which is massive. So Olivine FC, it has been fantastic, and you really got to give it up to Michael Giuliano for turning it up and really playing to his strengths and utilizing Pokemon that we didn't think were as good, and then really sticking it to other teams. Getting a win off Blackthorn's huge, and getting a win off Cinnabar is massive. Our next award is going to be to the RKS System Labs sponsor, best conference record, and that will go to Ecruteak City FC coach Nathaniel Shook with a perfect 5-0 record within conference, followed shortly by Cheyenne Dang with Blackthorn City FC, all of which are in the Johto conference, and we'll get more into that and why Johto seems to be the powerhouse in the MBL. Again, moving forward, our next award will be the most valuable Pokemon as voted on by players within the MBL, and that is our MCR Freight. Most valuable Pokemon Gardevoir from Ecruteak City FC, and yes, not Darmanitan, who came into a close second, followed by Shuckle in third. As most people have stated, that Gardevoir has been the one thing that has been a little bit odd to match up against. Not high up on the tier list, but given its effectiveness within the NBL this season, we can imagine it will move farther up the ranks and draft boards for future seasons. Our next award is the Ionia Suites Biggest Positive Differential, and that goes to none other than Cheyenne Dang of Blackthorn City FC. Again, they have been consistently phenomenal the entire season, only losing to a select few people in Michael of Olivine FC and Ecruteak City FC with a better record. They're 9-2. They have a plus 41 differential. I don't think people, the number one overall team with the best record is only around 38, 39 tops. So they blew this out of proportion completely. And, praise Blackthorn City for as much as you can for the game that they play. They blow people out. It's not a close win. It's a blowout. And Blackthorn City FC looks to be one of the biggest teams going into the playoffs. Even if they're not number one overall, they're still a favorite to go all the way. Lastly, our last award goes to the best team overall, which is our Hijiki Oka regular season champions, going to Nathaniel Shook of Ecruteak City FC. Again, they have the best record of 10-1. They're 5-0 in conference, and they've only lost one match out of conference to Cinnabar Island. So this has been a team that has been lights out from day one, and they get our regular season champions award. So congrats to Ecruteak City. Congrats to all of our coaches and teams that have played this season for an amazing season and some crazy upsets and games that have happened. Next, we're going to look up waiver wire pickups. This will be really quick. It didn't garner too much of a waiver wire pickup episode, but we still are going to hit on it. So the only waiver wires that we can really touch on is going to be, there was a few with Palatown. We've already addressed that, but we're going to talk primarily of Goldenrod FC, coached by Eric Passler, who dropped 3 Pokemon and added 3 more right before playoffs started. He dropped Rhyperior, Pukamuku, and I think one other, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, Heliolisk, to pick up Cincino, Weavile, and I can't remember that next one. I feel really bad for not knowing that. I do apologize. Let me look it up really fast. I am so sorry, folks. So he picked up Cincino, Weavile, and a Selgor, trying to set up faster leads, and has upped his overall average speed of his entire team. Cincino looks to be probably the hardest hitter with the Choice Band Skill Link setup, while Selgor looks to be a Final Gambit Suicide lead with Spikes and Toxic Spikes, followed by a Bug Buzz. And then we also have the nasty Weavile, who originally, fun fact, was on his team prior to him dropping it early on for Pukamuku. And I believe I think Braviary and Heliolisk possibly. So look to see Goldenrod FC utilize these 3 Mons in a new way. Remember, they have not seen any battle time within season, so this is strictly playoff based, and we hopefully can see this in the first round of wild cards. So we'll keep going. We're going to go into the league stats here, because I think the stats will really paint a picture of how important these matches are, how important looking at these statistics mean for the playoffs, and even looking forward to see who could possibly lead the charge and get into the finals. So we're going to start off really fast with Kanto Region's stats. We're going to look at the entire stat lines of teams within the Kanto Conference, and they are listed in order from best to worst. And we're going to start off at the very bottom. Starting off, we got Pewter City at 1-10. They had a minus 54 differential. They're 6 points away from a perfect minus differential of minus 60. So they were only 6 points away. They're one match potentially away from having a perfect minus 60. They did not do good out of conference. As you can see, they have a 0% win rate out of conference at 0-6. And they also had a 20% win percentile in conference, with their only win going against, I believe, it was Saffron. Following that, they finished 12 overall. But we have Viridian City, which, again, don't let the overall record deceive you. This is one of those teams, again, had the most weather wins. And you can see that there's a massive 20-point swing differential here, right? Minus 32 is not good, but it's also not as bad as 54. Again, out of conference and in conference, they only gained 1 win, and they rank at 10 overall within the NBL. As we move up, you'll see there's kind of a difference in the shift in how points the differentials are, and this is large in part due with teams are just playing better, right? We look at Saffron. Saffron's kind of that line, right? It is his rookie season. His coach is Alex Tenney. Differential of minus 24. Out of conference, he was actually better at a 2-4, whereas in conference, it was a little bit tougher for him. As we see, a lot of the teams matched really well with Saffron City's just team comp. As we talked about before in the Blitz, originally when we talk about team composition, his team was the slowest in the league, and that seems to be the main cause for why we see a drop in wins from Saffron. As we move up, we have Fuchsia City, who turned it up at the very end with a -6 differential, which you might think, oh, that's not that great, but it's actually fantastic when you look at his conference play. His conference play is 3-2. He was able to win those easier matches and then be able to take points away from the Johto Conference by winning some of those really big matches. We look at in conference, he's got a 60% win rate, while it's a 34% win rate out of conference. So if he matches with anyone within conference, it bodes well for him moving forward. Then we got the Season 1 champs in Palatown, coached by Eric Dressler. He's 7-3-1, right? And you can see over there, Cinnabar is 8-2-1. And yes, that tie happened within the conference, but don't let that deceive you. It did help him get to that 4th overall, as that tie actually helped him out when looking at Goldenrod's record. But things that really point out here, in conference, he is still perfect. There is a tie, but he did not lose in conference. But if we count the tie as a loss here for in regards to win percentage, because it wasn't a win, it's 80% win rate. But one thing we need to really note here, even though he's 4th overall, he's 3-3 out of conference. I know the out of conference says 67, but some stat changes, so he has a 50% win rate out of conference. What that tells us is when matching up with Johto Conference players or teams, it hasn't bode well for him. And we can attribute that to Blackthorn, Ecruteak, and Goldenrod being those 3 losses from the Johto Conference. But on the other side, it's a little bit different, right? Again, the differentials between Cinnabar and Palatown are relatively the same, but Cinnabar has about 7-point difference, which means there's a 2-game difference, differential of plus 29. Again, we had the 4-0-1, so the 80% win rate within conference, but out of conference, he's 4-2 with a 67% win rate. This is important to note, because not only has he been dominant within the conference, but also out of conference, only losing to Blackthorn and Olivine. So these are 2 notable teams to keep in mind. He was the one person that gave Ecruteak City their loss. So remember this here, as a notable loss to Cinnabar has been the top rank overall, the 2nd overall, and then the Rookie of the Year. So Cinnabar has had a massive record from when they were 2-2-1. They've now made it to 8-2-1, and they won out since their last 2 losses. So fantastic stuff. People to really note here is going to be probably Fuchsia City. It's going to be your top 3 in the Kanto. Viridian City has a really interesting matchup within the wild card, so do take note of them. But the real guys that we're going to be looking at moving forward into the first round of playoffs is going to be that Fuchsia City, is going to be Palatown, it's going to be Cinnabar. We're not sure where Fuchsia City's, how they're going to play, but we do know that their Dracovish and Mammoth Swine play has been phenomenal as of late. And we're also looking forward to Palatown with their new pickups to hopefully up their speed with Galvantula, but also what they're going to do in playoffs, as if they potentially win round 1 of playoffs and they go to the semis, they could potentially play Ecruteak, which is a rematch that ended up, I believe, in a 5-2 win towards Ecruteak. Moving forward, we're going to look at Johto Conference. Now, the Johto Conference has been, as you can tell, is a little bit better, with the top 4 teams actually having a winning record, which has led most people to say that these guys are the powerhouse of the NBL. Again, we structured these conferences based off season 1 stats, so this was an unexpected twist as we look at every team here, and we'll kind of explain why. Starting off at the very bottom, we look at Azalea Town. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Coach is going to be Brandon Richards. Already, their bottom player has a differential of minus 31, which is better than Viridian before. Again, relatively simple. Has only won one game out of conference, one game in conference. So really, anything that we're looking at within wild card is going to be kind of a crapshoot, as we don't know kind of how he's going to play with this pressure in the wild card. One thing to note is that in conference, the only reason why it's higher than out of conference win percentage is because of the one less game within conference. Moving forward, we also have Violet City, coached by Jared, and I cannot pronounce your last name, I'm sorry, but he's from Archetypes Collide, man. One of our featured guests here in the NBL. NBL. This one is interesting, guys. I cannot. In conference, he has a 0% win rate. So if he faces anyone within the conference, it has not been pretty. But I want you to look at the out-of-conference wins. 4-2. All of his wins have happened out of conference. He has a 67% win rate with teams outside the Johto Conference in Kanto. He ranks in at 8th overall, and going into wildcard, if anyone he plays is out of the Johto Conference, this does not bode well. His Pokemon are insane. I don't think people realize this. They don't give him enough credit here, because notably, against top 4 or top 6 teams, he matches well up against them and has a little bit of surprise with the way he constructs each Pokemon. That being Crawdon. Crawdon has been one of his biggest killers in his entire team, taking off people turn 1 with Okos. Along with that, Dusknoir, his first round pick, which we all thought was going to be kind of weird, has been incredible. It's a ghost type, but it's also a wall with all elements, and he slaps an expert belt on it or an assault vest, and this thing has now become massive, right? So look to see Violet City and Jared really take a hold of their opportunity here in the wild card rounds, and I think they're going to go a great long ways. Now, following that is our Rookie of the Year, Olivine FC, with a record of 6-5, a plus differential of 1, which is impressive given the fact that he almost went 500 in season play. He has a 50% win rate out of conference, so it's kind of a toss-up to whether or not he'll perform. But again, those toss-ups are against top teams, folks. Top teams. And then within conference, he has a 60% win rate, which again he has a win from Blackthorn. Right, this is in your bottom 3 people. It's a win against Blackthorn when they were undefeated. Okay, Olivine is a team to be scared about. Again, Violet City, Olivine, two of these bottom teams here in Johto are incredibly good and should not be counted out. We're gonna follow the rankings and look at Goldenrod FC coach Eric Passer, who has been lights out, went to the semis season 1, finished at, I believe, 4th in the inaugural season of the NBL, moved to Goldenrod FC to coach there, and has a plus 13 differential, and I did not do the out-of-conference win percentage correctly, so I do apologize for that moving forward, but he finished 5th overall only because he did not have a tie with Eric Dressler. Okay, that tie helped Eric Dressler to kind of get that 4th overall, but he would have won given the matchup and also with differential. Even with the 4 losses, he still maintained a plus 13 differential out of conference. He is 4-2. He is a beast. Only losing to, I believe, Cinnabar, and I think someone else. I cannot remember who it is, so don't quote me on that. I believe his record might be different. I believe it actually was Saffron. He lost 0-6, but there's other stipulations with that. Within conference, it's been a little bit different. Okay, he's lost to Blackthorn and Ecruteak City, but he's beaten Olivine and Violet City, who he beat only 2-0. Only 2-0. So within this conference, Johto looks to be, like we said before, a powerhouse. Followed by, after Goldenrod, we also have Blackthorn City FC coach Cheyenne with a plus 41 differential and a perfect 6-0 record out of conference. People, If you have not woken up yet, now is your time to realize that Blackthorn City FC literally will OCO or just demolish any Kanto region teams in the NBL. If Cinnabar is the gold standard of Kanto, Blackthorn City looks like God. Blackthorn City is crazy, only losing to Michael and Ecruteak City. So let's paint this picture here. They've only lost the number 1 overall and the Rookie of the Year, right? Who, mind you, the Rookie of the Year beat Cinnabar. Okay, so Blackthorn, in my opinion, is the team to beat in the playoffs. Following Blackthorn, we also have Ecruteak City. I am the coach of that, so I will try to be as unbiased as possible with a perfect in-conference win rate of 100%, 5-0, an out-of-conference win rate 5-1, so it's 83% win rate. Only because we took a loss from Cinnabar that went to time by the fantastic play by Cinnabar, and we are sitting at a 10-1 record with a plus 38 differential. So not as good as Blackthorn, but we will be moving in to playoffs as the number 1 seed. Now keep in mind, Blackthorn, Ecruteak City, Pallet Town, and Cinnabar Island FC all have first round byes, and it's really important to note that as we move forward. But we're going to look at some specifics here with each team, starting with Olivine. Now, it's important that we look at Olivine because Olivine is a team that most people haven't really looked into. Again, he's rocking Rodham Heat as his number 1 pick, followed by Tyranitar, Sylveon, has Barraskewda and Durant. Also on the very back, he has Ninetales, Noivern, Jolteon, and Serena. So these are Pokemon that you typically would not see in a very high tier fashion in draft, given the threats like Darmanitan, Aegislash, and Clefable, Ferrothorn, Dragapult, Excadrill, Drake. You don't typically see these Mons really putting up a fight, but here we have a team in Olivine that has done the impossible. Their notable wins: a 2-0 win against Cinnabar, a 4-0 win, a 4-0 win against Blackthorn, who at that time was undefeated, with their only notable loss that to take into consideration to Viridian, who was our weather team expert in Sandstorm, with a 4-0 win. Versus top 4 teams, he has a 50% win rate, and per loss, it's a 3.8, and per win, average points is 3. Now, the reason why we bring this up is that if Olivine loses, right, if the match is not looking well in his favor, note the point spread, right? If it's a blowout, he's probably going to lose. He needs to really staying close with these teams. So if he drops one, he needs to look to find a way to drop another one, because if he stays close and causes pressure to the team, we do see that he actually will win more of those pressure or high pressure stakes wins, as most of his wins happen within that 3 points or less, right? Average points per win is 3 points or less, whether it's average loss is 3.8 and higher. So again, look for Olivine to really pressure top 4 teams or even top 6 teams to really be that dark horse in the tournament. In fact, I won't go to say that he's the favorite, but if you're looking for a mid-tier team, Olivine's the one to root for. Again, he plays 6th overall. He's 4th in general conference. But I will say, in the round 1 of wildcard, he does play Viridian City FC, who gave him that 4-0 loss. But if he edges that one out, he will then play Blackthorn City FC, who he already beat 4-0 in season. So Olivine has a way to then move past Blackthorn, and then Lord willing, if he beats Blackthorn FC from there, he will then match up with Cinnabar FC, who he already beat 2-0. So Olivine FC, if you want an upset alert dark horse team, they are the team to look at, as they have positive matchups past that Viridian City team. Next, we're going to look at Fuchsia City, who really turned it up. Who turned it up later in the season. Okay, notable wins. They beat Olivine. See, we're praising Olivine here, but let's not forget that Fuchsia City beat Olivine 2-0, and then when matched up with top talent like our season 1 top 4 team in Goldenrod with Eric Pastor, he only lost 2-0. He has Dracovish, he has Mamoswine, who were even included in the MVP voting. Right? So against top 4 teams, he does not have a good win rate. In fact, he's 0 for 4. But things that we need to talk about are the point spreads, right? When he loses, Fuchsia City loses bad, right? 4.8 points or higher. So he's losing by a good margin. But on the flip side, and we can usually tell within the first couple minutes or couple turns of the match that he will either win or lose, right? Because his wins per win average basis is a 4.5 points or higher, which means he's winning matches either 4 to 6-0. Right? Now, things to look at. He finished the season playing Azalea Town either in week 10 or week 11. He's matched up with them in the wild card. He knows that the coach, Brandon Richard, very well. And he looks to have a really positive matchup against Azalea Town. Now, things to also note, he plays Cinnabar. Cinnabar beat him 4-0. So even though he has a positive win, even though he has a more positive outlook with Cinnabar than other teams, he does not want to play the Kanto champions. He's had problems with it before, Aegislash being one of those things, and Hawlucha being the other. So he has the potential to really come up and be really effective in playoffs. In fact, we looked at even his match. If you go back on YouTube and look at our MBL matches, Fuchsia City matched up with Cinnabar, and honestly, Appleton did fantastic work. Mamoswine had an unfortunate crit hit against him with Espeon. If that doesn't happen, it's a wildly different game. Keep in mind, also, Dracovish has the potential, not saying it will, potential to Oko Aegislash with Fish's Red. So Fuchsia City is a threat. Do not get it sick and twisted. They are a threat. But it all depends on what happens against Azalea Town. Finally, we're going to look at one of my favorite stat lines. It's going to be Violet City. The reason why I want to talk about Violet City and Jared is because this team is scary. This team is very scary. They have notable wins in Fuchsia City 6-0, and they've also beaten Saffron, who he's matched up with first round and wild card. But I want to take more time to look at notable losses. Well, why is that, Nate? Well, let's look. Against Goldenrod, he lost 2-0. Against Palatown, he lost 6-3. It went to time with the Season 1 champs, right? Then, third place team of Season 1, Cinnabar Island, number 1 in Kanto. He only lost 3-0. This team matches up with top 6 talent all day. He'll play Saffron City, and then he'll play Ecruteak City. So, not the greatest draw. Great wild card match, but really bad playoff one round matchup. Things to note. Within the top 4, he will lose either at most by 3 points or less. That's insane. His average loss, his average points per loss is only 3.8 or less. And that's for the whole season. If he wins, he averages 5.3 points. This team, if given the opportunity to really, if they have the opportunity to poke a hole in your defenses, they take all of it, right? This swing in points is crazy, which means this team competes with every team in the league, and they compete well. Jared has been known to really plan out his form of attack and utilize his mods in a very strong way. Again, can I stress that up? Pokemon to look out for on his team is Crawdon, Salazzle, Lucario, and Dusknoir. Okay, but not only that, but his last pick in Flygon has done massive work, with Colossal having Steam Engine getting faster and being able to utilize Weakness Policy as well. Violet City is terrifying if you're not ready for him. And Saffron City, who they beat, right, has to find a way to beat Violet City, because if not, Violet City will blow them out of the water. Jared is a good coach. This team, though on paper it might not look good, is a good team. And there's a reason why, with their notable losses against top 4, they have a 3-point swing, right? It's 3 points or less in regards to loss. There's a reason for that. This team has good matchups. Look for them to go a long way. So with that, we're going to continue. And we're going to look at the wild card matches. the most exciting thing in the world, okay? So we already talked about the teams to watch, Violet City, Olivine, and Fuchsia City. But we're going to look at the wild card matchups and really be able to take the stats that we saw and look at them and be able to apply them to these matchups that we're going to look. So we're going to get right into it, honestly, with the wild card matches. And I'm super excited for these wild card matches. People are sleeping on these wild card matches. They shouldn't, because these are going to be great matches to really to watch, honestly. Our first one that we're going to look at on the very top bracket with the number 1 overall, we're going to look at Violet City and Saffron City. It's going to be Jared versus Alex. And again, they've already matched up in season before with Violet City winning 3-0, and we're having a rematch again. So it's time for Saffron to get their revenge, and it's time for Violet City to really defend home, right? But keep in mind, they're 4-7, where Saffron was 3-8. And remember, Violet City was not good in conference. They're 0-5, but thankfully Saffron City is in Kanto, which, keep in mind, they're 4-2 in, right? They're 4-2. Violet City has a good matchup this week for the wild card, and honestly, it's really exciting to see where Violet City is going to go. Next one is going to be Pewter City and Goldenrod. Okay, this is going to be the worst team in the league against the number 5, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I believe it's number 5 in the league. Eric Pastor has played Lex before, and Goldenrod has beaten Pewter City 6-0. We expect the same to happen here, but still keep tabs on it in case an upset does occur. Next, as we talked about before, Fuchsia City lines up against Azalea Town. Uriah and Brandon are very close friends, and they've already played at the very end of the season as well. It was a 6-0 win in Fuchsia City's favor, but this one seems interesting. There's a different feel for it, right? I think this will be a closer match than people give it credit for, but I also believe that Uriah and Fuchsia City have one of the strongest teams in the league. If he can utilize his Pokemon correctly, look for Fuchsia City to not only take this win, but to go even further. But keep in mind, Brandon Richards has Hydreigon, has Gyarados, has a really wild Octillery and Inteleon, and he has Bisharp for knockoff. So do not count Azalea Town and Brandon Richards out. This will be one of the closest matches in the wild card. But what's even closer? Olivine and Viridian. This was the one team that Olivine did not want to go up against, but they are up against in Viridian. Now, keep in mind that in conference, right? In conference, these people are okay, but these guys are playing out of conference, which is where we saw Viridian take a 4-0 win against Olivine. If Michael Giuliano and Olivine FC want to go farther in the playoffs, it all comes down to this moment right here. If Olivine wants that roadmap to the finals, to the championships for the season 2 of the NBL, they need to surpass Viridian, which right now is their biggest nemesis. I don't know this outcome. I lean more towards Michael Giuliano and Olivine FC, as I do believe in their team and believe in what Michael Giuliano is doing, but this is the match of the week. I would typically say Violet City and Saffron, but this is the match of the week, and I can't wait to see what happens next. Now that we got those wild card, and we'll post those to the Discord, and we'll post those on our Facebook page. So keep in mind, those are the matches happening this week, and there'll be a little bit of an extension going into next week for them to finish this, given the delays. But that's wild card. So these matches will all determine where who the top 4 teams play. And we're looking at that right now. We're going to go to bracket play, and this is where we'll be able to see kind of the whole bracket layout, the seeds, everything. And it's really important that we look at these because it kind of paints a picture. What we're looking at for the future, for weeks to come. So let's get right into it. As we talked about before, Violet City's going up against Saffron, Goldenrod against Pewter, Fuchsia against Azalea, Olivine, Viridian. But let's look at these matchups depending on who wins, right? Violet City, if they win, like they did last time against Saffron, they'll actually go up against Equertique City, which was I believe a 3-0 win on Equerteak's side. If Goldenrod FC pulls a win out of Pewter, which it does seem like it's most likely going to happen, it's a matchup from back in season. Powhatan versus Goldenrod, in which it was, I believe, either a 4-0 or a 5-0 win in Goldenrod's favor, which means the number 4 team could lose to the number 5 team, and the last season's champs would be out of the tournament. But on the flip side, and this is where it gets really heated because, again, we have that interesting storyline with Ekritik, Palatown, and Goldenrod, kind of all these top teams coming together with Violet City being that disruptor. But on the bottom half, with Cinnabar Island and Blackthorn City, we have a very different one. We have Fuchsia City, who had a decent run against Cinnabar. Potentially, if they beat Azalea, they can play Cinnabar for another rematch, which is going to be a great rematch. But more importantly, the storyline that we really want to follow is Olivine playing Viridian City. And if they win, they play Blackthorn. But here's the thing. If Olivine can do the impossible and beat Blackthorn again, they will then face Cinnabar, who they won 2-0, which means they could possibly play one of the top 4 teams up there. Olivine has, even though they have one of the hardest paths to the championships, also has one of the easier ones, as they should be confident in the fact that they've won this previous matchup. This playoff bracket is filled with storylines that we cannot wait to cover. I am looking forward to the matches to come, and I hope you guys are too. And again, we will post this to the Discord page, Facebook page, and to our opponents. So if you're needing any more information about that, feel free to hit me up, and we'll be able to help you no time flat. Again, I'm super excited for this playoff. It's probably the most colorful playoff. Everyone did make it into playoffs potentially, but again, this is the wild card, so this is like the last-ditch effort to get in that first round. There's really no favorites looking at it. If I had to pick a favorite, because again, a lot of these top 4, even top 6 teams are fantastic. If I had to pick a favorite, my favorite would probably be Blackthorn. Yeah, they beat Goldenrod, they beat Cinnabar, they've beaten Palatown, and their biggest roadblock is going to be Olivine if they get matched up with them. So Blackthorn essentially has probably the easiest road. If they meet Ekritik City in finals, that's going to be a different story. That'll be a little tough. But it's still split 50-50, as I do believe Blackthorn has the better team with Mimikyu, Togekiss, Dragapult, Rotom Wash, so on and so forth. Again, they have a good, even spread in their team. Their team comp is really good. But also, Cinnabar's got probably the best team comp in the entire league aside from Goldenrod. Ekritik City has a very hyper-offensive team, whereas Palatown has a little bit more slow-down, status-inflicting, kind of manipulating the game type of mentality. It's a very setup. Happy. So that's what we got. Again, my name is Nathaniel Shook. This has been the Blitz, and I'm so happy you guys were able to tune in today. Hopefully, we kept it short. But hopefully, we'll see all you guys in the chat, not only discussing on this video, but also for the playoffs to come. Guys, this has been the Blitz, and this has been our MBL playoff special. You guys have a fantastic night. I will see you in the chat. I will talk to you on Discord. But get ready for the MBL playoffs, because they start right now.